Today we're reading from Gadhadā 1:72. Faith coupled with the knowledge of God's glory. I like to interchange the word God with just divinity. For me, it expresses the same idea, but in a lighter way. On Chaitra Vadhi the 11th, Samvat 1876, or the 9th of April 1820, Swami Sri Sahajanandji Maharaj was sitting facing east on a large decorated cot on the veranda outside the north-facing rooms near the mandir of Sri Vasudev Narayan in Dada Ghachar's Darbar in Gadhadā. He was dressed entirely in white clothes. At that time, an assembly of munis, of scholars, as well as devotees from various places had gathered before him. Then Muktanand Swami said, "Maharaj, yesterday you had a very nice talk with Dada Ghachar. All of us very much wish to hear that talk." I was under the impression that Dada Ghachar was a place because we're in Dada Ghachar's Darbar. But now that I understand, this is a Darbar which is in reference to some person named Dada Ghachar. Thereupon, Sriji Maharaj said, "If a devotee has faith in the divine, coupled with the knowledge of that glory, and also thoroughly realizes the glory of the sadhus and satsangis, the monks and fellow spiritual seekers, then even if that devotee's karmas, as well as kal, happen to be unfavorable — kal refers to time — both kal and karma combined are incapable of harming them due to the extreme force of their bhakti, their loving devotion." I want to mention this word glory in English. I feel, it is my intuition, that glory also has heavy baggage associated with it. Glory might come with the idea of pride, of being better than anyone else. But I believe the sentiment here is that the glory of God means the awe of God, that there's an unfathomability of all its infinite qualities, and understanding that this beauty is there for us to appreciate. We just dissolve into that divinity. On the other hand, a person lacking faith in the divine and his sant. Sant means saint, but you could also think of it as someone with a divine personality, does not benefit in any way, even if the divine wishes to do good for that person. One who oppresses the meek does not benefit in any way either. In fact, Bhishma Pita has said to King Yudhishthir in the Mahabharata, which is the longest epic in human literature, "If you oppress the meek, you and your descendants will be burnt to ashes." Meek means someone weak or small or fragile. Therefore, whether you be a devotee of divinity or not, no meek person should even slightly be pained. Moreover, if one does hurt the meek, not only does one not benefit in any way, but one also incurs a sin equivalent to the sin of killing a Brahman, killing a very noble, a priestly kind of person, a learned scholar. In the same way, the sin incurred by making false allegations against someone is also equivalent to killing a Brahman. We should never lie about anyone. Even if the allegations happen to be true, one should constructively advise the person in private, but in no way should they be publicly humiliated. That's a beautiful point too. If you feel like someone is doing something that you disagree with, talk to them in private about it. Have a conversation. Don't try to humiliate them in public. Similarly, one who forces 5 categories of the feminine to lapse in their dharma also incurs the sin of killing a Brahman. One of the most beautiful things about this spiritual lineage is the work they've done for women's rights in India, since many people know, particularly all over the world, not just the East, there has been a repression of women in the last few centuries. And I really like how this tradition stands up for all that, and huge social movements and revolutions have stemmed from these teachings in India for the education and the abuse of women especially. So, of these ladies, we also have to understand the context as well. This was about 200 years ago in a rural region of India, in a territory called Gujarat. They're talking about women here. They're talking about a woman who has sought one's refuge, one's own wife, who does not desire intimacy on days of observance or on days of fasting. 3rd, a woman who observes the vow of fidelity. 4th, a widow. And 5th, a woman who has placed her trust in one. All these qualities are something that we should cherish and understand. If someone goes against the sanctuary of these 5 categories of the feminine, they incur the sin of killing a Brahman. Of these 5 categories, if any of their minds waver towards immorality, then they should be inspired to observe dharma. That we shouldn't be repressing these people, especially the feminine, but inspire them to change if we feel like one could be made. Thereafter, the Munis, the scholars, began to sing amorous devotional songs of God. Hearing them, Sriji Maharaj said, when God assumes a body for the sake of the liberation of the jivas, jivas means like individual soul, all of his actions are like those of humans. And we were talking earlier about the concept of Bhagwan, which means a descension, an avatar, someone who exemplifies the virtues of Paramatma, the higher self. On seeing those actions, a devotee understands them to be divine actions, whereas someone who lacks faith perceives faults in them. For example, when Shukaji, which is Shukadeva, was the son of Vedavyas, who was the author, the compiler of many scriptures in Hinduism. For example, when Shukaji narrated the Ras Panchadhyayi, King Parikshit harbored a doubt, and so asked, God had manifested to establish the order of dharma, righteousness. Why then did he commit a breach of dharma by associating with others' wives? There are some very interesting stories and symbolisms in Hindu mythology of avatars of God having many wives at the same time. That's the context for what this question has originated from. In this manner, Parikshit perceived a fault in the divine, Shukaji, on the other hand, thoughtfully began singing praises of the divine, explaining that Kamadeva, which is the deity representing desire, had conquered Brahma, the deity representing creation, the creator, and other devas, and had brought them under his control. This had greatly inflated Kamadeva's conceit. To vanquish that conceit, God challenged Kamadeva. Just as a powerful king gives his own weapons to his enemy prior to fighting him, similarly, God also gave his enemy, Kamadeva, the necessary ammunition for fighting beforehand. What was this ammunition for fighting beforehand? Well, the force of Kamadeva manifests in the company of the feminine, and that force is also greater during the nights of the pre-winter season. In addition, amorous gestures of the beauty of the feminine and becoming intimate in touching the feminine greatly increase the force of Kamadeva, desire. After giving all of this as ammunition to Kamadeva, the deity of desire, Sri Krishna Bhagwan, who is personified here, conquered Kamadeva and continuously remained, and Urdhvareta, this is a tough Sanskrit word, my goodness, I have to sound it out slow, Urdhvareta, like a brahmachari. This means someone who redirects the sexual energies inward and upward. Urdhvareta means literally someone who does not release the vital fluids. Brahmachari means literally someone who is on the way to the ultimate. Brahma means ultimate. Achari means someone on their way. In this way, he vanquished Kamadeva's conceit. No one except the divine possesses such transcendental powers. It was after realizing this immense power of the divine that Shukaji extolled the divine actions and incidents of the divine. However, as King Parikshit failed to understand this, he perceived a fault in the divine. However, someone may ask you, he's referring to people in the audience, being Paramahansas, which are very high kind of monk, why do you sing such amorous devotional songs? Why are you always expressing your love for the divine? In that case, you should tell that person, if we do not sing amorous devotional songs, and instead perceive faults in the amorous actions of the divine, then we would also join the ranks of King Parikshit and other Nastika, non-believers. And I want to exemplify here, or not exemplify, I want to emphasize here that this worry about being a non-believer is not that we become an outcast. It's that belief in the Hindu tradition is a very practical thing because it empowers us to see the divine within everything and everyone. And if we fail to recognize that divinity, that preciousness of life, then we will have trouble. So it is of everyone's benefit for us to have a kind of belief. And Tattvamasi, you're wondering if Nastika is in reference to Gnostic. I don't believe so, because Nastic literally means a non-believer. Na-astik. Astika means believer. Nastika means a non-believer. But the Sanskrit word related to Gnostic is a Jnani, as you would transcribe it, G-N-A-N-I, Jnani. That's the similar etymology for Gnostic. But we do not wish to join the likes of those who are non-believers. After all, Shukaji considered to be the guru of all Paramahansas, of all great beings, himself extolled the amorous sports of the divine. Therefore, we must also certainly do likewise. Nevertheless, when Purushottam Bhagwan, the highest form of divine personality, who transcends both the perishable and the imperishable, assumes a human form and travels in the Brahmanand, the universe, for the liberation of the jivas, his actions are just like those of all humans. Just as humans possess mayic action, material action, matsar, jealousy, defeat, victory, fear, grief, arrogance, desires, craving, etc., God also exhibits the same swabhavs himself. But they are all for the liberation of the jivas. So a true devotee extols the divine actions of God and attains the highest state of enlightenment, whereas someone without belief perceives fault in them. A non-bhakta, I think that's a good way of looking at it, Tatvamasi. Namaste, Jina. In fact, just as God is the Atma, the self, of the perishable, he is also the Atma of Akshar Brahman, who transcends Prakriti Purush. With his own powers, God supports both the perishable and the imperishable, yet he himself is distinct from them both. Furthermore, the glory of the divine is such that, within the pore of his each and every hair, countless millions of Brahmanans, universes, appear as mere subatomic particles. Only when that vast God becomes like a human, for the sake of the liberation of the jivas, do they have an opportunity to serve him. If he were to remain exactly the same size as he is, then even the ruling devas, the deities of this Brahmanan, this universe, in other words, Brahma, the creator, and others, would be incapable of doing his darshan, or serving him. What, then, can be said of mere humans? Consider, for example, the Vadvanal fire that dwells in the ocean. Despite consuming the waters of the ocean, it is so vast that even the water of the ocean itself cannot extinguish it. If we wish to light an oil lamp in our homes, and that Vadvanal fire were to enter our homes, instead of enjoying the light of the oil lamp, we would all be burnt and reduced to ashes. However, if that same fire were to assume the form of an oil lamp, its light would provide joy. Even though the oil lamp is that very same fire, the oil lamp is so weak that it could be easily extinguished by blowing on it or smothering it by hand. Nevertheless, it can provide comfort to us, whereas the Vadvanal fire cannot. In the same way, God may appear to be as powerless as a human, but only through that form can countless jivas, beings, attain liberation. The jivas are incapable of even doing darshan, divine witness presence, of his form, within whose each and every hair reside countless millions of Brahmanans, universes. Hello, Argo. Hello, Rasul Allah. So, liberation is not possible through that form. Thus, all actions the divine performs after assuming a human form are worthy of being extolled. One should not doubt. Despite being God, why does he do this? In fact, to realize all of God's actions and incidents as redemptive is the very dharma, the righteous duty of a devotee, and only one who understands this can be called a perfect devotee. Thereafter, Kakabhai of the village Rojka asked, "What are the characteristics of a person who merely has faith in the divine, but without realizing that glory. This is a longer passage today, it seems, so I thank your patience. I thank you for your patience. Also, what are the characteristics of a person who has faith coupled with the knowledge of that glory? Sriji Maharaj replied, "A person with only faith still harbors doubts. Although I have attained God, will I attain liberation or not? On the other hand, a person with faith coupled with the knowledge of glory believes, from the very day I have had the darshan of the divine, I was able to witness it. My liberation has been guaranteed. In fact, liberation is also assured to anyone who devoutly does my darshan or accepts my service. How then can there be any doubt regarding my own liberation? I am indeed absolutely fulfilled. Furthermore, whichever spiritual endeavors I do perform, I perform solely to please the divine." One with such understanding should be known to have faith in divine, coupled with the knowledge of his glory. Again, Gadhadā asked, "What are the characteristics of the three types of devotees of God? The best, the intermediate, and the lowest?" Sriji Maharaj replied, "The best devotee believes himself, or herself, to be the Atma, which is beyond gender anyway, the true soul, which is beyond the body and the mind, distinct from their body. They do not associate the qualities of the body, being jad, full of misery, perishable, impure, etc., with the Atma, the true self, nor do they associate the qualities of the Atma, being uncuttable, unperceivable, imperishable, etc., with the body. They see the Jivatma, the individual soul, residing in their body, as well as the Paramatma, the higher self, dwelling within their Atma. Not only that, they see the Atmas, the selves, residing in the bodies of others as well. Yet, despite having become so capable, they realize the divine and the divine personalities of such to be superior to Atma realization, and harbors not even the slightest conceit of the realization they have attained. That is to say, you become so lost in the love you have for the divine that you're not even concerned anymore about your own self-realization. A person with such characteristics is said to be the best devotee. In comparison, a person who, despite having knowledge of the Atma, of the self, and faith in the divine, becomes jealous of devotees of the divine, and if the divine were to insult them, they develop jealousy towards the divine as well, feeling, even though the divine is so great, why is he treating me so, despite no fault of my own? Should be considered to be an average devotee. Finally, a person who has faith in the divine, but no Atma realization, no self-realization, has affection for the divine, as well as for the affairs of this world, and experiences joy and grief in the affairs of this world, should be considered to be the lowest of the three types of devotees. That was a longer one today, but thank you for listening. Thus we've come to the end of Gadhadā 172.